Welcome to our viewers. We're excited to be here. I'm Lauren Jones. I'm the CEO and founder of Leap Advisory Partners. I have my partner in crime here, Rob Mann. Go ahead, Rob. Tell them who you are.
Rob Mann, I'm the VP of Sales at Leap Advisory Partners, and also I co-host a podcast with Lauren called the You Own the Experience podcast. We talk about all things relevant to the staffing industry and how people and technology, when they come together at the perfect mix, drive the best outcomes for your business.
Yes. And you guys, surprise, surprise, surprise. Guess what this panel is going to be about? I think this is my third year talking about AI, but we have two perfect specimens here in regards to the game-changing effects that AI can have on your business. So we have Kelly Borman here. Kelly, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Kelly Borman. I am the COO here at PRN Healthcare. I've been with PRN over 15 years now, always looking at technology, AI, and how we can implement and work smarter and not harder.
Oh, love that. And Will, our good friend Will, you're back.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Will Hayes, I'm with IDR. I'm our COO also. It's my 18th year with IDR, started right out of college, and I oversee sales, recruiting, operations for our company, including AI strategy, tech strategy, all that fun stuff.
Love it.
Yeah, and Will is a beta tester for some for lots of AI stuff. So I'm not sure, Kelly, you got.
Don't say that. I'm beta tested out right now. So
are you good? Right.
Yeah, I got a full stack. So
good. Right. Well, we tell all of our clients, you know, if you're not testing the limits and trying out new things, you're not doing it right. So I love that we have two people here that are doing it right. So I want to start with the end in mind when it comes to AI, and let's talk a little bit about the metrics that matter and how we are going to define the ROI that we're going to get from ROI, which is where I feel like there's this like little missing piece right here. Is we think AI is going to fix all things, and yet we don't necessarily put that metric that matters on it. So tell us a little bit about how you define that ROI so that we can essentially, you know, qualify and quantify what the ROI is. And Will, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So I think when I first started down the AI path, we were a very early adopter. We've been kind of experimenting with it for, I'd say, about 2 years, roughly. When it actually comes to like putting it into our infrastructure, right? Integrating it into our tech stack. I think when I was originally evaluating it, the ROI that I was looking for was more on the revenue generation side. But I think a lot of executives that have put AI into place quickly realize that there's a cost optimization impact as well from an ROI standpoint. It wasn't really something I was thinking of necessarily when we first implemented it, but it's something that I think you have to kind of measure both sides of that. You have to measure the growth that you're seeing. Tech should always enable you to do more, but it also should enable you to do more with less in theory, or at least get a better output per producer. So I think now the way I view it is I really look at it from a cost optimization and ramp optimization standpoint for our new hires and some of our existing people. So if we've got our AI strategy in place, it's working well with our other tech strategy, we should see people ramp up faster. We should see an ability to do more with less people. And get more out of those people as we start to scale our recruiting and sales team. So that's a high level overview. I don't know if you have questions about that, but that's how I look at it.
Well, so I love that because I think what Rob and I always say is there's so much opportunity in the blank space. What's not there, and I think that's exactly what you're saying, Kelly. What about you? How do you define that?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky way to be able to define it, and how are you going to implement it? So for us, I always want to understand how we can help people work smarter and not harder, right? So what tools can you give them to be able to be more efficient by the work that they're doing? We know that speed is a huge game in this market right now. So again, how do we use AI to enhance their speed? Reducing cost. Again, how do you get them, every recruiter, every employee, the ability to be able to have tools to be able to use so they can produce more with less time. And I think one of the big pieces that we have the ability to implement and use AI in is the overall quality of our placements, making sure we're making the right placements, we're doing better placements, we're focusing on our retention within our clinicians, and trying to make sure that we are giving the facility or system the best qualified nurse for that position, as well as making sure we're doing the right placement for that clinician, right? We're setting them up to be successful.
Yeah.
So I love this. And I think that there's a lot of hesitation to invest in AI because, there's this desire for immediacy. And so a couple questions I think I have is, how much time do you give it? How much time is too much time? How much time do you give it to when it's really sort of, and is there this sort of inflection point where that AI has proved its value, right? So how long is too long, or how short is too short? And Kelly, this time I'll start with you. And then what is that inflection point when you're sort of realizing that value?
Sure. I think it depends upon the AI system or platform that you're using, the tech that you're using. Some of them that you implement, you may see changes right away. We're actually working with chat automation right now on creating some robots for us to be able to implement speed within some of our processes. And we understand that we should be able to see changes immediately with the implementation of that tool. However, there are other tools that we're implementing that may take 3 or 6 months. You'll see slow wins along the way, but before you're truly realizing that cost, it may be a little bit of time. So I think it depends upon the tool that you're using, the system that you're using, as well as how you're using it. So we all know the implementation that you roll out to your team is extremely important as well, and the adoption and making sure that you may have one idea that how you think it's going to go, and then when you implement it, it may change a little bit. So I think you need to be able to have some flexibility within that space to be able to say what that ROI looks like, what you're going to get out of it, and how quickly you're going to get it.
What say you, Will?
What say you? That's a great answer. I guess, are people still hesitant? I don't keep a very good pulse on
They
that.
are.
That's
I can tell you that, right? As an advisor, I can tell you.
Yeah, that's wild. But and I don't say that to offend people. I just, at least, and I come from a sales and recruiting background, so I'm not a technologist at heart. And I always preface it with that. So maybe I see things a little different, but I don't explain AI in terms of like this revolutionary thing, although it is. I do think it now that I know more about it, it's going to have a massive impact on our industry. But it's one of those technology implementations. It takes the user from 5 clicks to 2, and so if you start looking at 100 recruiters, or however many people have, 220, 30, that cost of productivity gain is significant. And I think that's really where the focus should be, is making sure that those 2 clicks are the right clicks, right? And when it comes to realizing the value, I have the same viewpoint. I think some tools are immediate, some tools take longer. But AI is not replacing a lot of technology. To some degree, it's an integration. And so it's empowering, it's putting your technology stack on steroids, kind of, is how I look at it. And so you should see, depending on your ATS provider and how well structured your data is and all those things that you hear about in the market, you should see a pretty quick impact in terms of realized gains at the actual desk level, what your recruiters and salespeople feel. If you don't, it's because it's not the right tech. So I think that the length the time that you hang in there with it depends on how good your change management is, because I think that's everything. It does change the workflow. It doesn't replace the workflow. It doesn't, hey puppy, it doesn't change everything like from that standpoint, but it does require you to change how your user interacts with their keyboard, with the screen, in your ATS, the different systems that bolt onto your applications, your main applications. So in my opinion, it should happen pretty quick. And if it's not, then there's probably something off, an integration issue, a data hygiene issue, or something that you need
Cultural.
to address pretty quickly. Yeah. Cultural, yep.
So just so you guys know, I've been on Zoom calls probably every day with Lauren since 2020. And this is the first time that Gracie, that the big Great Dane, has come in and sniffed her face twice now that I've been on calls with her today. So I usually don't see the old big girl, but she's amazing. Anyway, great transition, Will. So one of the things that we kind of wanted to do was think about that, give people some actual real life insights, like we were kind of doing about where you're seeing the productivity, Kelly and Will. So it's almost like a little rapid fire round of like where the recruiters are seeing the extra productivity, or even the candidate or client experience. So if you guys want to just throw out, I know you said ramping up. So like for Will, like ramping up your team members, where are you seeing the productivity?
Well, I wanna say one thing, because Will, you said something that was really interesting. Sorry, I know I can't time out. I can't help myself. So you said something that, AI is this, kind of miracle. I believe that. I think it's the internet all over again. And yes, it's puppy playtime. Sorry about that. But I think it's the internet all over again. But never in my 30 years in this business have I seen this great equalizer, right? Where the $1 million firm has access to the same tools at the same cost as the $1 billion firm, right? So I look at it as like this great equalizer. And yet there's only 55. So last year, about 6 months ago, we were at 48 and 48. So 48 we're using and dabbling, 48 we're going to, and then 4%, well, I can just tell you they won't be around. They had their head in the sand. But now we're at 55% are using or dabbling. And in my mind, that's still not enough. Yeah. So your response in like incredulity of firms not using it, I share that sentiment. I am like, come on, guys, you are going to be left in the dust.
It doesn't take a lot to test it and play with it. That's the thing.
It doesn't. It's very easy to turn on and off. And I think too, I said this last year at Engage, like if you're in that 45% that's not dabbling in it, I'm willing to bet that 90% of your staff is dabbling in it. You just don't know about it. And so you'd rather get your organization to wrap their arms around it, to really empower those people who are buying into it. Because I find it hard to believe that, recruiters aren't using it at the desk level every day.
You have a 25-person team, even if the leadership doesn't want you using it, like there's got to be 80% probably that are doing something with it. And the biggest issue with that, and I think all four of us would agree, is that if you let that, if you're not giving them guidance, then you are giving them free reign to go put important information into a public LLM instead of a controlled private, IDR or PRN healthcare environment. So head in the sand is actually probably costing you money, maybe some litigious or legal action as well if the wrong thing gets into the wrong LLM. So. And someone finds out about it. So that's not to scare you. That's to tell you should probably just get something, a closed environment for yourself at the very least, and an AI policy. So
policy, education, enablement. Policy, education, enablement. Start there and you'll be good. And then the other point you made, I think it was both you and Kelly, on the change management. So agencies where we're finding some offness is A, they don't have a culture of change, and B, they don't understand the difference between change readiness and change management, right? And you got to do both, particularly in this market. So I just had to say that because I think the change management thing is so important. And now, Rob, let's talk about
let's unpack more. So give me the
unpack more of that. Yeah,
time in. All right. That was like a total Zach Morris moment, right? She's like,
I know, right?
she wanted to give us some context and break the fourth rail of the TV show. All right, so a little more rapid fire. Like, where are you? Where are you, like, just very quickly, like, where are you seeing? So if I say recruiter productivity, what are some things that are happening in the, and then we can go back and forth. So like, we'll start with Kelly. Like, what do you see real quick?
Yeah.
Application wise, like
Yeah.
that are making the most impact.
Yeah, you're screening your applications, you're doing, pre-screening questions, you're filling out paperwork ahead of time. Job matching is a really big piece of it. I think that's probably one of the biggest, quickest pieces you can move to start.
Will, what do you got? Anything different or
I think, yeah,
same?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different factors. I think training, you're spending a lot less time on things like Boolean training, especially if you're hiring people that are new to staffing, which we're organically grown. So that's a big deal to us, right? Just to removing that component.
Yeah.
You talked about, Lauren, the impact of how, small and mid-sized firms can compete with larger firms. You can also see junior recruiters competing with senior recruiters. They're
Yes.
probably still not quite there, right? But when you talk about removing sourcing out of the training, like, these are things companies have been trying for years through offshore, which I think some of the outsourced offshore recruiting, companies, this is going to have a big impact on them, I think, because matching and sourcing is a really big component of this to simplify the ramp up. So even if you just say, hey, okay, what's the ROI of an employee to break even? Maybe it's gone from 36 weeks to 26 weeks.
That's a lot of money.
Right, 25, 26 weeks. That's a lot of money. But just think of the headache and the time of what it takes to teach or operators and all these things and all the different tools that you got to go learn. That's removed. Now you just train on your system, and I'll programmatically pull what's coming into it and fix the data before they even search it. So, and then the tool will even search and match it for it. So, like, search and match is becoming a real game changer. It's a lot different than it was just a year ago.
Well, I think there's a lot of inefficiency at the top of the funnel, in terms of getting value, right? Whether it's the recruiter or the system, right? Like, or the technologies we're using. Not a ton of value comes out of top of the funnel exercise. So if you're just dialing them up to people that might be interested or relevant quicker, that's going to create value very quickly. All right, from a little kind of the same exercise, but from the candidate experience piece. Or the client experience. What are you guys seeing, or what are you doing? We'll start with you. Anything standing out?
I think it's huge. I think there's still work that needs to be done here. And again, I think this is more related to data hygiene. That was kind of the big push last year. It's like, make sure your data's fixed. I think everyone's always kind of known that. Well, like, now it's really critical. And I think there's a reason why, because you've got to think of, from a candidate experience standpoint, first off, our NPS is improved. We get pushback, right? We got an AI screener calling us, or text bot or something, but everyone gets reached out to now. Everyone gets their data collected in our system now. Make sure you update your privacy policies. Everyone has up-to-date information, not getting back to them within 72 hours, getting back to them within like 72 seconds.
Yeah,
and
5 minutes.
they complete a legitimate screen, and it's in your system. And then when you go to match the candidates, it's accurate, and you can update your system automatically. You can pull bad candidates out of your system, merge them. Duplicates are, getting those in order is a lot easier now. I mean, the candidate experience, in my opinion, about probably 6 to 12 months from now, it's going to become e-commerce experience. It's like a shop for a job and sign up for it almost. And I don't think we're quite there yet, in my opinion. I think some of the industries are. Light industrial, it's had a major impact on, but for professional staffing categories, we're really close to that. Like, we're really close to being able to take a candidate from a job order coming into the system and taking them all the way through onboarding with AI. I mean, it's crazy.
So I have questions about the NPS, but Kelly, I want to get to you first. Sorry, Laura.
No, that's all right. I think I very much agree with what Will had to say. I think that's speed and the speed to response and not having to have a human respond to everything to be able to get them answers to the information we're looking for. We've noticed it with job platforms, right? The quickest person that can respond, how many seconds is it taking you to respond to get an answer is who they're going with. So I think that you have the ability to tailor what you're offering and how you're offering it to the clinicians based upon what their desires are. So again, if they would like more of a personalized process, you have the ability to do that, as well as if they just want very simplistic, quick answers to make decisions, you have the ability to give them that at a moment's notice without having to have the people be there to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to be able to do that.
And
And
you're
one,
using go ahead, Will.
I was going to say one thing. We're talking a lot about speed. The quality though is incredible. I mean, it's one of the most frustrating things, right? And I come from a desk level side. If you have multiple branches, if you have multiple operations, lots of recruiters, lots of salespeople, depending on running split desk, single desk, however you have your setup is, we run a split desk. The best recruiters, one of the most frustrating things is finding, let's take a software engineer. I can, in the past, 9 times out of 10, I can pull up a job in another office and say, why didn't you send it over there? Or like, why didn't you submit that candidate over here? The visibility it gives you, the quality and the matching, not only just for your current operations, but across operations is a big game changer as well. Now there's communication things you have to fix with that, getting used and comfortable, but it's making your enterprise more organic. It's operating more in unity, in my opinion, because the quality of the matching is so accurate, but the visibility across the organization is drastically different, regardless of how good your people are.
Right.
Yeah, you didn't need a human being to remember that Kelly had a job in the Dallas branch,
right,
that the software engineer is really good for, and that Will, even though you were in the Atlanta branch, because that person can work remote. But yeah, like it's so
right.
clear.
Right. And Kelly, you're what's interesting about what you're doing is you're using the digital worker, Dwight, right? You're using
Yes.
Dwight, digital
Yep.
worker interface, generative human task. I got that right. Yes.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you're
First time I've
using
actually
Dwight,
remembered.
which I know, right? Which I think is fascinating. So how has that augmented, the kind of manual labor, I guess, if you will?
Yeah, I think it's helping us prioritize the tasks, right, that need to be done by the manual labor. So need to be done by the people to be able to build relationships, being able
Yes.
to strengthen the pipeline and the volume of pipeline. We have some recruiters who may be maxed out on their pipeline. So Dwight comes in and does those daily tasks that we don't need a human touch to do. So it'll create efficiencies within the process as well as do those tasks, and then let our recruiters level up, for a lack of a better saying, right? It lets them build different types of relationships and engagements with the clinicians that we're working to create retention within your clinicians as well as your clients.
Yes, I love it. So it's people on relationships, technology on repetition, and I think if you can have that as a hard and fast rule, I think you'll be good. So as early adopters, you guys are sort of ironing out the kinks for the rest of for the rest of the bunch out there. So let's talk a little bit about some of the biggest mistakes or challenges in adopting some of these things, because they're there. If you're innovating, if you're not moving fast and breaking things, right, I'm here for it, but I think you're not doing it right if you're not trying some things. Kelly, what do you see as some of the biggest mistakes or pitfalls?
I think it's making sure that you understand the technology or the platform that you're using and what you want it to do. So as we have been working, again, chat automation is one that comes to mind, making sure that you're on the same page as to the end results that you want and that it can actually perform. I get told often I don't ask for much, or maybe I ask for a lot and it's not realistic. So again, I think it doesn't hurt to ask, right? So to make sure that you truly understand what you're asking for and what can do. I think one of the interesting pieces with the technology is there's so much that it can do that you don't even think of. So again, having those open conversations and Lauren, you and I talk quite a bit, like what other technology is out there, because
Right.
there is so much in the field on a daily basis, just trying to keep up with it and all the new things that are coming in and making sure that we're utilizing it appropriately. And how can we, what pieces do you implement into your company at what point in time? And I think, again, it's astonishing that there are so many companies that are not integrated or using the technology yet, or the AI, that they are going to be they're going to be caught in the dust. They're not going to be around for much longer. And I think that our team, our coworkers are asking and wanting it. They
Yes.
want it and need it. They want to work smarter. They want to be able to take their desks to the next level without having to do everything manually. So I think that there's some great opportunity to be able to use it and implement it on that. But again, there are some that you implement and you're like, this is not helping us the way we want it to. So it's understanding as well, what is your break point? At what point do you say we have done everything we can and this is not going to be one that we are going to continue to move forward with? Or, hey, let's take it back to the beginning. What do we need to change in order to get the results that we're looking for in this platform or technology?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a statistic out there from SIA, to your point, that 84% of the talent that we're looking to recruit, so recruiters and salespeople, are now asking employers or agencies, what's in your tech stack? They want to know that you have the tools that they're going, 80, I mean, that over 80% are asking, what do you have in your tech stack, so that I know that I have the tools at my fingertips to be successful at your agency. So again, if you're not making these investments, you are not only going to be challenged to scale, but you're going to be challenged to recruit the talent to scale, right?
Yes.
You still need human capital to do that. And then what I heard you saying is fail fast. Will, what do you have to say about that?
Well, there was another point Kelly made, which just I think is so accurate. I mean, we've always had like demo committees, pilot committees, with different teams and stuff. My committees now are like 20% of our staff. They may be based upon different functions, but everything in AI, it's like things in our head that we think it can do, and like you can experiment and try with it. But that's the thing with AI, you can try those things in like 2 weeks and then scale it off if it doesn't work. It's like if you're working with a vendor, an AI vendor, or on something with a existing technology and they're introducing AI, they only know as much as like they know. So I want a lot of voices there. I want a lot of feedback on innovation, on ideas. And honestly, about 90 to 98.9% of the time, if that's even accurate, I think somewhere in that range, if I ask, it's usually turned around in about a week. That's the other thing that's cool about AI. It's like product enhancements and feature enhancements, they can be done lightning fast and you can try them out. And the way that from a development standpoint, how fast you spin these things up, it's not a lot of cost anymore for the vendors to
No.
trial out these things, which is really cool. So it's exciting to kind of say, hey, it'd be cool if it did this, and then a week later to have the product fully functioning, and you can really say, no, I it needs to do this instead. The pivoting, it's very agile, even if they're not like very agile in their development. It's just very fast, and deployments are very fast.
Yeah, it's interesting. Will, you said 20% are on the technology committees. That's a strong testament to change readiness and change management of IDR, right? If 20% of the business is bought in, so
Right.
that should be a clue for anyone listening about how to create a culture of change.
So if agencies are just starting, right? So let's talk to the 45% that are listening to this. What's the best sort of low risk, high reward type of investment they could make? Where could they? I always say top of the funnel, but that's a little ambiguous. So is there something specific you can give the 45% that are just starting out or just starting to dip their toe in the cold water? Where they would get the highest reward? Will, I'll start with you.
Okay. I mean,
You're
I'd
both
say
thinking
for
about it.
starters, get your IT department, if you're if you're not a Microsoft shop, or there's all kinds of different large language models, LLMs, that you can choose from, but at least start with set up an organization key on ChatGPT. If you're too small to not have anyone technical, Ashley, our CEO, her husband, they've got kind of he works for like he calls it like a shadow department almost, in terms of like tech department that he's spun up. You can hire even entry-level developers. That's what's powerful about, AI. You can hire a lot of this in-house for very cheap. And they can do a lot of really cool stuff for you. But just getting started, I think Kelly hit on a good point. Like, you need to understand a little bit about what it can do, so you can prompt the conversations across your organization. Get you an OpenAI ChatGPT account or Claude account. There's all kinds of different tools. Meta, Llama, you can do all kinds of things. But start playing around with it, and then start testing maybe Boolean searches or candidate summaries or job description formatting. And a lot of people ask, like, again, I don't want to assume this, but if you're not on automation yet, probably time to do that, as well. A lot of people ask me, like, how's AI replaced your automation strategy? It hasn't. It's just really put it on steroids. It's really beefed it up. It bolts on to every single technology that you have. So once you familiarize yourself with it, start exploring writing a candidate summary. Start summarizing job descriptions. Start putting the same job descriptions in your ATS so that it's simpler for your recruiters to understand what the client's looking for. Cleaning up and standardizing your information and really getting to work on the data side, I think, is a big part of it.
Right.
Kelly, I want to jump to you, but real quick, one of the things that I actually said to people about data quality, Will, on another webinar or talk like this, is starting with generative actually will get data into the ATS, because most of the AI providers actually, like, if you prompt it to create a job description, it's going to save it into the ATS for you. If you ask it to write a submission summary, it's going to save it into the ATS for you. So it's actually part of the almost like change management of getting your teams to be in the systems so that you can derive more value from them. So I just wanted to highlight that generative is actually a really good gateway to getting your data in order. Sorry, Kelly.
No, I think that, what Will said, all of that leads into having better quality of information, quicker information, accurate information. And how does it get updated? I think the piece that we have not touched on yet is, how do you use AI on your reporting features? How do you take the data that you have to make sure that it's drilling down the right information? How do you look at your data differently? So I think that, again, you can easily start, with chatbots and having brief conversations for you, using Calendly to schedule meetings out, trying to use automation in that space. But I think that there's a whole different piece of the puzzle when it comes to the data and how you're looking at the data, how it can help dissect the data differently for you, and then how it can help you tell a story maybe in a different picture that you haven't looked at as well.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about Kate O'Neill. I'm reading her book right now. I'm almost done. It's What Matters Next, and she's sort of a tech humanist, is what she calls herself. And she talks about not being future proof, but because we hear that term all the time, and I think she, like me, thinks it's an impossibility, but being future ready. So fast forward 5 years. How is AI going to reshape, and how do we be future ready? I get your crystal ball out, and I'll start with you, Kelly. Get some little.
Yes.
I think that healthcare staffing is an ever evolving and changing world, as is staffing, right? There's so many pieces to it. You're always changing. And if you're not willing to implement and start working with tools to help you work differently, you'll be left in the dust. I truly don't believe you will be able to function, and you won't be a player in the game anymore. So I think that the implementation of the tech that you're using, what platforms you are using, and how you're integrating it. And I think I mentioned mentioned this earlier, you always have to be open and willing and looking to what is next and coming down the line, because if you're not, you just lost out. So I think that there's a huge opportunity to make sure to use the platforms to help you work differently. But then I think that it helps you strengthen your business at a different level with your people. So it's not getting rid of people, it's allowing people to do the jobs that really matter the most, and using the platforms and the tech to do the jobs that are the everyday tasks that take time.
Yeah, the what gets in your way every day kind of conversation. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. All right, well, fast forward, get your crystal ball out.
Man, that's a scary question to answer, in my opinion. It's I'm always like very careful with it too. But I mean, the reality is that we've always said, I think, was it Bullhorn that said this, like, meet the candidates where they're at, and I think you were talking about that a little bit, Lauren. I think that's the real reality here, is that the consumer experience, the client and candidate experience, is going to be completely different. It's going to drastically change in terms of how they want to interact. And there's always going to be room for good recruiters, good salespeople in this business, and there's always going to be room for independent ones and smaller, shops that maybe don't evolve into AI and all these things. There will always be a space for that. But if you're serious about scaling a business in this industry specifically, and you don't have this strategy in place, I think 5 years is way too far out. If you're going to still be surviving in the industry, you just won't see the growth. You won't keep up. It's very similar to what you said, Lauren. It's like the internet. It's like, imagine not moving to like the World Wide Web, like when it came out, like within a couple of years. It's the same thing. It's that big of a disruptor. And whether or not it's a disruption or not, it's just the reality of the industry and business. And so I think that the biggest impact is just that the people consuming it, the experience, is going to be very tailored to how they want to interact with your company. And we, especially my generation and also Gen Zs, that, they want control of that. And imagine, about 10% of our revenue is travel nurse. We're mainly tech staffing, but our travel nurse is growing. Imagine the unrealized revenue of not being able to interact with a nurse after a second or third shift, when they can actually look for their next job, or, the credentialing process, and not having a digital experience to meet them literally where they are, maybe on a hospital floor, wherever, and not being able, there's no way to keep up with that. And the burnout it creates, I think that the recruiters are going to be more satisfied. They get a lot more done. They can actually make good money without having to be on the clock 24/7 on the weekends. That was the reality even 10 years ago when I did it. And so you got to have that in place. And I think that it's just a better experience for everyone. It's doing all the little things we've always wished that we had at our fingertips, in my opinion.
Right. How many times have you said, I need an assistant? Right? You have them.
Yeah,
all of
everyone
them.
has one. Yeah,
Everyone has one.
I asked
literally.
I asked Gemini about the future of staffing and recruiting while we were doing this. So
What did Gemini say?
we got some, I got some user generated content creation. We got some top of the funnel matching and sourcing. The three that were interesting: AI enhanced video interviewing and analysis. So not just like recording the call, but actually body language, which we know that AI can already do on calls like this. Which I thought was cool.
Ringover's doing that. They are using AI for sentiment, right? So, which I think we're so close to all of that. And what I am kind of, when I get my crystal ball out, right? My crystal ball tells me we're finally going to get rid of the resume.
Lauren's been trying to get rid of this.
I've been trying my entire career.
She's not that old, but she's been fighting it that long.
1492, the resume was invented. Like, come on! Like, I'm not gonna let it go. I'm just, I in the next 5 years, I feel like with all of the data enrichment we get from unstructured data, like we're finally going to be able to light the resume on fire, right? It's all just going to be digital.
Yeah, and you're whether or not you have one or not, you'll have a digital footprint online.
Yeah, exactly.
So and they actually already are there, which you can, so even if you don't have one, you do have one. And just with LinkedIn and all the data aggregators out there, it's you have a digital footprint, whether you know it or not.
Or whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I
Whether you like it or not.
I do want to drop this last one though, because I think this one's actually very interesting. Sorry. AI for internal mobility and talent matching is a prediction.
Okay.
AI systems that analyze the skills and experiences of existing employees to identify internal candidates for open positions or career development opportunities. I think that one's
We're
huge.
there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, no, but I think I know Will does this. I'm sure the PRN team does it, but like, are large organizations really good at cross-functional mobility or cross, right? Like
whatever that word is.
Yeah, whatever the correct term is. But
We do
I
that.
it's definitely not something great that a lot of bigger companies do, right?
Yeah.
I can
cross training.
Yeah, or like where they're missing, or like, hey, how do we reskill this person? Like Rob uses AI a lot in his job. Does Will or does Lauren? I mean, Lauren, I know you do. I'm sure Will does. I'm sure Kelly does. But like, that's going to be huge. And
understanding what they've done and what they're looking for, right? They may not be the same thing. So understanding kind of the differences between it, I think, could be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And just so you guys all know, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a cool thing too. Like even if you're just playing around with like Chat GPT or Gemini or whatever your LLM of choice is, you can like take like screenshots of like text messages and say, hey, based on a DISC analysis profiles, break down their DISC and tell me kind of different roles that they'd be a good fit for. It's like scary accurate to like the DISC assessments and everything, like behavioral profiling and like personality trait profiling. It's really cool. Like to play around with that if you get a second, especially if you're looking at like hunters versus farmers and things like that. There's a lot of really cool insights you can get from it.
Yeah.
And by the way, Will is wearing Meta Ray-Bans, I'm pretty sure, over there.
These are my Christmas gift from my wife.
How are you?
My wife's on board with AI. Like she hears about it enough, so she's.
How are you liking that? How are you liking those? Out of curiosity, is it like giving a running joke? Are you getting a DISC assessment?
Yeah, like
Lauren
I'm like,
Kelly
yeah,
right
I'm
now?
disking you guys this whole time. It's just like behavioral profiling you guys as we go through that.
Good. It's like she's crazy. Awesome. All right. So if you had to give, our staffing leaders one piece of advice on, getting the most out of this, what would that be? And then we'll do a little recap. What would that be? Go, Will.
I think the biggest thing is that this is not. First off, there's two main takeaways. One, this way simplifies your tech stack. I think that people's tech infrastructures are going to significantly decrease over time. Tech vendors aren't listening, I know, so don't listen to that. They're like, raise the cost. But if you're smart with it, right? If you get really organized with your tech landscape and what it can and can't do, right? Get committees, your people will tell you what it can and can't do. It will really simplify things for your business. Instead of having 8 technologies to do one thing, you can now really use one tech to do one thing. And so being smart about those investments. If you're way overpriced in contracts, talk to your vendors, get the money to invest in this area because they probably are investing in it too. You grow, they grow, everyone's happy. The second thing is that this does not necessarily have to be a replacement for everything. It's a bolt-on. It's an AI is an integration. It makes everything better. It makes your people better, makes you better, makes you smarter. And I love the analytics insight, Kelly. It can provide so much information on things that you weren't even aware is going on in your business just by letting it do its thing, which is really cool.
All right, Kelly, you're up.
I think to start somewhere, right? Figure out in your company where's the one piece that you can start, and as well as talking to your coworkers, talking to everybody on the floor, seeing where they understand or where they think you could implement it to be beneficial is a great place to start. But don't let yourself get in the way of it, because there's so much opportunity and so much growth beyond what anybody is imagining. So I think that that's really extremely important.
Yeah. I think what Will said was what Will is saying is like, for vendors, everything's going to be more outcome based.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
exactly. Yep.
Jobs are going to be outcome based.
Instead of buying like at some point, and we work with vendors too, Will and Kelly, right? Like instead of being per seat based or monthly, it's going to be outcome based. And you're going to need less seats. You may need to charge more for outcomes, but like the outcomes are working.
That's right.
Creating revenue, then we're okay with it, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see so much fractional today is because it is going to be it's going to be outcome based. This is the combination of fractional experts I need to get X outcome, and I think it's simply going to be that type of sort of statement of work of and all signs are there. We're already seeing more statement of work.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me. All right, so I'm going to do a little recap. I've been taking notes along the way. And so chime in if I miss something. So this is not a replacement, it's an enhancement, right? It's going to allow us to keep things simple. In my mind, this is the great equalizer. This allows us to leverage the same tools, at the same cost. This is, I think, amazing for the small firms that are at some inflection point. I think it can be game changing. Know the difference between change readiness and change management, and make sure you've created a culture of change. This is going to keep changing rapid fire, and if you haven't created a culture of change acceptance, right, you are going to be challenged to keep up. You've got to invest and experiment, but fail fast. If I heard that from Kelly correctly. And then I think I heard from both of you, know what problem you're trying to solve for. And that's asking the question every day, what gets in your way every day. Will, you came up with a new term today. So it's not just upskilling, it's fast skilling.
Ooh.
I love that. We're gonna like trademark that and make it a new thing. We're fast skilling people.
We'll give you some
right?
of the royalties. Well, don't worry.
We'll give you the royalties. It's okay.
10%.
You don't have time to trademark that. We do.
And then start with the basics. Ask the question, what gets in your way every day, and start with the simplest thing, the lowest hanging fruit out there. How did I do? Did I get the major takeaways?
2 thumbs up.
Okay, 2 thumbs up. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for your time here. I think that there's there's so much wisdom to take away. I want you to continue the conversation out there around AI. Will, Kelly, Rob, thank you so much for being here. Any final words? Are we good?
I think we said a lot of words. Maybe
We said so many words. And
we can save some for the AI to summarize this for us.
Yeah, right. Well, thanks so much for being here, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.